Birth control is not merely about the pursuit of pleasure, because for most healthy human beings, sex itself is not merely about the pursuit of pleasure. The contraceptive mentality seems to be a favorite topic for many traditional Catholics. At least it certainly seems to be an obsession with one of the priests stationed at my parish. During his sermons, he often attempts to rhetorically slay the dragon of the so-called contraceptive mindset, condemning the disordered pursuit of pleasure and decrying the anti-family attitudes in the culture of death. While there is a grain of truth in this line of thinking, as with all demagoguery, it is rife with oversimplifications and mischaracterizations for emotional effect. Before getting into my critical assessment of the alarmism about birth control, let me start with some agreement. Humans are indeed susceptible to unregulated hedonism, and the advent of modern birth control has only made decadence easier. On to my criticisms. The 2 points that I find most problematic are: birth control is merely about the pursuit of pleasure, and contraception reflects an anti-child mentality. These are remarkably ignorant generalizations detached from the complexity of human relationships and lived experience. On the first point, birth control is not merely about the pursuit of pleasure, because for most healthy human beings, sex itself is not merely about the pursuit of pleasure. It's the exploration and expression of a deep human bond. According to the Catholic understanding, the conjugal act is procreative and unitive, and to be licit, neither aspect can be thwarted. In an ivory tower, this logic is sound. But in the messiness of life, the potential for pregnancy is not always desired nor advisable. And this leads to the second objection, namely that contraception reflects an anti-child mentality, which again is a gross misunderstanding of a complex issue. Yes, the purpose of birth control is to prevent conception, but not because of a hatred of children, but because of poor timing and circumstances to welcome new life. Rough economic conditions, unstable health, being emotionally stretched thin from an already large family, being in the middle of a university degree, career development, and the list goes on and on and on. Life is not a straight line, and it simply is not feasible to be open to the possibility of procreation at all times. And it is certainly unreasonable to indefinitely delay marriage when we have already found our soulmate. Catholics would normally advise abstaining or using NFP, that is, natural family planning. But both of these can be frustrating in a marriage, and the latter can be entirely unreliable. Practically, birth control isn't about pleasure, nor the rejection of children. For most people, Catholic or not, it's about agency, about sustaining your intimate life with your spouse in the context of life's challenges. After all, what could be more human than taking matters into our own hands to shape our lives and experiences? If anything, it is a sign of respect for new life and a comprehension of the enormous responsibility that comes with pregnancy and child rearing. It is cruel and unusual to forbid couples from being intimate if their circumstances make it difficult to raise children, and this dogmatic restriction results from centuries of suspicion around sexual pleasure. Threatening mortal sin and hell for non-procreative intimacy essentially coerces husbands and wives into parenthood, or pushes them out of the church. Instead of a celebration of the gift of life, it turns children into the burdens of a pay-to-play model. Anecdotally, in the last few years, so many of my friends and colleagues, those who I misjudged as living carefree and ostensibly avoiding children, they've all still decided to be in long-term monogamous unions and raise families. They didn't need a restrictive rubric of sexual choreography, medieval taboos, or religion to find truth, goodness, and beauty in the pursuit of family life. They simply had more tools and less guilt complexes along the way. Now, it is indisputable that reproduction rates have declined, and there is more reluctance to have children, which I must emphasize is distinct from being anti-child. If we as a culture want to incentivize more procreation, we won't accomplish that with heavy-handed dogma, threats of eternal conscious torment, disdain for sensuality, and being neurotic about the erotic. We sure as hell won't motivate people with Thomism or teleology. The two areas that we have to address are the economy and what is often described as the crisis of meaning. We have to construct a society that prioritizes the flourishing of families through universal health care, living wages, affordable and accessible public education and trade school, robust social safety nets, better infrastructure, and a vibrant culture of art and music, and so much more. Of course, the great irony is that those who identify as being pro-family often vote against these things. Regarding the crisis of meaning, we have reached this low point for three main reasons. Unfettered capitalism leading to rampant consumerism. Everything is about making ends meet, obsessing over material goods, and we are left empty and exhausted. The failure of old superstitions. Traditional theology and hardliner attitudes about spirituality ultimately fail to instill any real meaning in our lives. In an age where cultural perspectives can be exchanged in an instant and our view of the cosmos is ever expanding, so much of traditional theology is revealed to be what it actually is: man-made frameworks attempting to grapple with our existence. But religion still continues to appeal to many, and among the younger generation, there seems to be a rise of traditionalists. But this is a symptom of the third problem: the radical leftist undermining of social structures, particularly of marriage, gender, and sexuality, a mirror image of rigid radical traditionalists. People need structure, and while we ought to prune the excesses of the tree of traditionalism, chopping it down results in catastrophe. In the wake of unchecked liberalism and its destabilization of society, there is a renewed interest in religious fundamentalism, in a desperation to find some kind of anchor in this stormy voyage. Some combination of the aforementioned, poor economic conditions, dogmatic religion, and the rejection of social structures, have made modernity less hospitable to family life. To rebuild and reinvigorate our desire to have more children, we cannot be motivated simply by fear of divine retribution and submitting to a heartlessly technical approach to marriage and intimacy. We have to find the beauty and meaning in life that fills our souls and inspires us to share it with a whole new generation. We have to make vibrant art, music, and literature and reignite a spark of human connection that's been dimmed by the alienation of material and technological excess. We should welcome new life because we want to, not because we have to. Until our individual and social circumstances improve sufficiently for us to be remarkably generous in procreative affairs, the so-called contraceptive mentality is actually quite simply using tools at our disposal to navigate marital intimacy amidst the tribulations of our earthly existence.